Something like this might just be the future of toys. This is the Robosen K1 Interstellar Scout. I kind of want to talk in depth about this thing because there is so much fascinating technology going on within this robot form factor. It connects to apps, it has some kind of personality, and there are some programming functions with it that make it a really interesting peek into the future of what toys may look like in the future. Shout out to Robosen for sending me this because I think it's just really cool and I want to talk about it more. The packaging for this Interstellar Scout looks something akin to Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story, or even Bicentennial Man if anybody remembers that movie. So you get this feeling of a really premium high-tech product that is also a toy. How does it all work? How does it all get put together? And is it any fun? I think one of the best ways to determine that is just to kind of see the thing in action, because it can do so many impressive things. The first thing to know is it might look a little familiar to you, and that's because you've probably seen the Optimus Prime as well as the Grimlock transforming robots. It's made by the same company. K1 is its own product. It isn't tied to any other existing properties or licenses that exist. And that lends itself to a couple interesting play patterns within the toy that isn't afforded by some of the Transformers one. First, it doesn't have to transform. It does some pretty incredible things outside of transforming. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And B, it reduces the cost of the product by quite a bit because there's just not the bureaucratic administrative red tape to get the licensing approved. There's two ways to control K1, and the first is voice commands. There are about 30 or so commands that K1 already knows that it can just do a routine that's already been pre-programmed. The second way is to use an app from your phone that allows you to manually control K1 and even program him in some instances. The manual control for K1 is kind of what you would expect with a remote control car or any other sort of robotics toy from, I guess, probably the past couple years. Now, the programming piece, though, is the interesting one. It can do things that aren't necessarily voice commands or readily apparent with the manual controls. And yes, with the $200+ technology, you can certainly make a robot fart.
I can't hold it anymore.
Because all great human achievements must include flatulence. Now, the voice commands can be a little problematic. You want to make sure you're enunciating clearly. Another thing to keep in mind with this is because a good deal of the functionality is behind an app, a kid that's playing with this will need to have access to an iPad or an iPhone to properly play with it. While the voice commands are fun, it is a little more practical and functional to use the touchscreen on your device to control the guy. The one thing that struck me about K1 this entire time was just looking into the future of toys. I don't think it's any secret that when you go down a toy aisle at Target, Walmart, any big box store, you don't often see a lot of kids. And there's a whole lot of theories about why that is, but a lot of it just is kind of due to the proliferation of technology and video games being really easily accessible and in a lot of cases free. And a product like K1 blends the physical and digital worlds really, really well. And K1 is just a first-generation robot. There's already a Pro version out there, and I can imagine over time these parts getting smaller and being adapted into a lot of other things. Now, just go with me for a little bit here. Imagine a dinosaur or a monster of some kind, or a He-Man toy, a G.I. Joe, a doll, anything like that being controlled by just a fraction of the servo motors that K1 has. As this technology develops and progresses, it's going to be even more impressive. In fact, Robosen has showed off a Buzz Lightyear that sits on a stand and is extremely lifelike. It almost looks like a household Disney audio animatronic figure. Now, if you want to check out the Robosen K1 Interstellar Scout, I'm going to leave some links below the video here so that you can kind of check it out on your own and just see what it does. Most of the footage that I've been showing is the voice commands for the K1 unit. And again, like I've mentioned, that doesn't even scratch the surface of all the programming and other functions that this can do using the app interface. The future of toys is interesting. We don't exactly kind of know where that's going, but I think we can kind of all agree that it's going to include some robotics, voice commands, and things like that. I want to hear what you think of the Robosen K1 Interstellar Scout in the comment section. Be sure to let me know. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.